Captain Lee Hanna felt her stomach drop as the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace collapsed behind the UES Defiant. The experimental quantum jump drive had torn through dimensions for what felt like hours, bending reality itself around their massive warship. Now they floated in the black void of unknown space, 200 light-years from where they should be. "Status report," Hanna called out, gripping the command rail as the ship's artificial gravity stabilized. The bridge hummed with activity as her crew worked their stations with practiced efficiency. Navigator Park Jimin's fingers danced across holographic displays, his face pale in the blue glow. "Captain, we're way off course." The jump drive pulled us through some kind of spatial fold. "I'm reading massive energy signatures all around us." He paused, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Multiple ships, configurations I've never seen before." Engineering Chief Kim Deho's voice crackled through the intercom from the engine bay. "Captain, the quantum cores are stable, but we're leaking exotic radiation. Whatever we pass through, it charged our hull with unknown particles." Before Hanna could respond, the communications array erupted with static and alien sounds. Communications Officer Choi Mina frantically adjusted her equipment, sweat beading on her forehead. "Captain, incoming transmission. The universal translator is working overtime, but I'm getting a signal." The bridge speakers crackled to life with a cold mechanical voice that sent chills down everyone's spine. "Unknown vessel, you have committed an act of aggression by violating sovereign Zalithian imperial space. Identify your species, your homeworld, and state your purpose, or you will be eliminated without further warning." On the main view screen, shapes began materializing out of the darkness. Sleek vessels with flowing curves and pulsing energy fields surrounded the Defiant like predators, circling wounded prey. Their hulls seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted and changed color from deep purple to brilliant silver. 300 kilometers away, Admiral Keithavar stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His forearms moved gracefully as he studied the intruder on his holographic display. The alien ship was a massive, brutal-looking thing built from dense metals and angular plates. It looked like someone had taken a space station and turned it into a weapon. "Analysis," he commanded his tactical officer. "Sir, the vessel measures 2 kilometers in length. Its construction is primitive, using physical materials instead of energy matrices. But the power readings..." The officer's tentacles twitched nervously. "Sir, their reactor output is off the charts. That ship shouldn't be able to function with that much raw energy." Keithavar's compound eyes focused on the strange vessel. In 3 centuries of Imperial service, he had never seen anything like it. "How did it appear without triggering our sensor nets?" "Unknown, sir. It simply materialized from what appears to be folded space-time. No known species possesses such technology." Back on the Defiant, Captain Lee Hanna took a deep breath and activated the response channel. Her crew watched tensely as she prepared to make first contact with an alien empire that could destroy them with a thought. "This is Captain Lee Hanna of the United Earthship Defiant. We seek safe passage and peaceful contact. We represent humanity and mean no harm to your people or territory." The transmission shot across space at light speed, carrying with it humanity's first words to a galactic civilization. On the Imperial flagship, confusion spread through the command center like wildfire. Linguistic computers worked frantically to process the alien response, but one word kept appearing in their databases with the same result. "Humanity," the tactical officer read from his display. "Sir, the species database has no record of any race called humanity. No homeworld, no territorial claims, no diplomatic contact. They simply do not exist in galactic records." Admiral Keithavar felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. In the vast database of the Zalithian Empire, every known intelligent species was catalogued, mapped, and classified. Pirates, rebels, even primitive civilizations were tracked and monitored, but these humans appeared to be completely unknown. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "the alien vessel is broadcasting on over 3,000 different frequency bands simultaneously. They're trying to communicate in languages we've never encountered." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant, Tactical Officer Yun Subin was analyzing the alien ships surrounding them. "Captain, I count 27 vessels. Their weapons are charged, but they're maintaining a defensive formation. They're scared of us." "Scared?" Hana raised an eyebrow. "We're one ship against an entire fleet." "Look at our hull readings," Yoon continued. "The quantum jump charged our armor plating with exotic particles. To their sensors, we probably look like we're about to explode like a star." The tension on both bridges was thick enough to cut with a knife, as two civilizations faced each other across the void, neither knowing that this moment would change the galaxy forever. Emperor Zalthek's massive form filled the crystal throne. Rumor's holographic reports floated around him like ghostly specters. His 6 eyes moved independently, scanning each data stream while his scaled hands gripped the armrests of his ancient seat. The reports all said the same impossible thing. A ship had appeared from nowhere, carrying creatures that shouldn't exist. "Impossible," he muttered, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. The Zalithian Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Every star system, every intelligent species, every grain of space dust was catalogued in their infinite databases. Nothing existed without their knowledge. His chief advisor, a spider-like creature with glowing purple eyes, scuttled forward on 8 mechanical legs. "Your Magnificence, our border fleets are requesting immediate orders," the alien vessel continues, "to hold position, but their energy readings are causing concern among our commanders." Emperor Zaltek stood, his 12-foot frame casting shadows across the throne room. "Send Ambassador Velnara. She has dealt with primitive species before. Learn everything about these humans, their technology, their weaknesses." His voice turned cold. "And their value to the Empire." 3 hours later, Ambassador Velnara's sleek diplomatic shuttle approached the human warship. The Defiant looked like a floating fortress compared to the elegant Imperial vessels, all sharp angles and brutal efficiency. Her pilot, a nervous, young Zalithian, kept glancing at the radiation sensors. "Ambassador, their hull is still charged with quantum particles. My instruments can barely function near them." Velnara adjusted her translation device and checked her hidden recording equipment. "Maintain course. The Empire must know what we're dealing with." The shuttle's docking bay opened with a hiss of equalizing atmosphere. Velnara stepped out, her forearms spread in the universal gesture of peace, her serpentine body moving with practiced diplomatic grace. What she saw made her pause. 3 humans stood waiting for her in the docking bay, and they looked nothing like the warrior species she had expected. Captain Lee Hana was smaller than most Zalithians, with soft-looking skin and no visible armor or weapons. Engineering Chief Kim Dae-ho appeared even more fragile, his hands covered in what looked like cloth rather than protective scales. Communications Officer Choi Mina seemed barely adult by galactic standards. "Welcome aboard the Defiant, Ambassador," Captain Lee said, her voice carrying easily through the translation device. "We're honored by your visit." Velnara's trained diplomat mind noted everything. These humans showed no fear, no submission to imperial authority. They acted like equals meeting for the first time, not subjects greeting their superiors. As they walked through the ship's corridors, Velnara was amazed by what she saw. The walls were made of solid metal plates welded together, not the flowing energy fields used by civilized species. Mechanical systems hummed and clicked everywhere, primitive but somehow incredibly powerful. "Your ship is quite large," she observed, her hidden recorders capturing every detail. Kim Dae-ho smiled proudly. "She's home to 50,000 people, families, scientists, engineers, farmers, everyone who could escape when Earth started dying." 50,000? Velnara tried to hide her surprise. "Most Imperial vessels carried crews of a few hundred at most. And you traveled between stars with so many." "We had to," Captain Lee explained, as they entered a massive viewing lounge. Through the transparent aluminum windows, Velnara could see the Imperial fleet maintaining their defensive positions. "Our sun was expanding, turning our world into a burning wasteland. We built the Defiant as an arc ship, designed to carry our people to a new home." Communications Officer Choi Mina activated a holographic display showing Earth's final days. The journey took 200 years in cryogenic sleep. Everyone except essential crew was frozen to preserve resources. Velnara's 4 eyes widened. Cryogenic suspension was theoretical technology even for the Empire. The energy requirements alone should have been impossible. 200 years in space? How did you survive? Human determination, Kim Daeho said simply. We built recycling systems that could turn waste into food, water, and air. Our fusion reactors could run for centuries without maintenance. And when those weren't enough, he gestured to the massive engine sections visible through the windows. We built quantum drives that could fold space itself. The ambassador felt a chill run through her body. These primitive-looking humans had mastered technologies that the Empire considered impossible. Their ship was essentially a mobile planet, carrying an entire civilization. We didn't mean to end up in your territory, Captain Lee continued. Our navigation systems failed during the final jump. We were trying to reach the Andromeda sector where our probes detected habitable worlds. Velnara nodded diplomatically, but her mind was racing. The Empire had never successfully sent probes to Andromeda. The energy requirements were too great, even for their most advanced ships. Of course, we understand accidents happen, she said, smoothly. The Empire is always willing to help lost travelers find their way. As the tour continued, Velnara's hidden recorders captured everything. The humans' casual mention of technologies that should be impossible, their massive population living in space, their matter-of-fact discussion of crossing between galaxies. What worried her most was how normal they made it all sound. Like any species should be able to do such things. Admiral Kethvar stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, watching as 27 Imperial warships moved into perfect formation around the human vessel. Each ship gleamed like a jewel against the backdrop of space, their crystalline hulls pulsing with contained energy that could level continents. Humans of the vessel defiant, he broadcasted, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 years of Imperial dominance. We would be honored to demonstrate the might and glory of the Zilithian Empire. Observe what true civilization can accomplish. The Imperial dreadnought, World Render, glided forward like a predator, its kilometer-long hull crackling with barely contained power. Energy fields danced along its surface as ancient weapons systems came online. Weapons that had conquered star systems and humbled entire species. Captain Lee Hana stood calmly on her bridge, hands clasped behind her back as she watched the alien display. Her crew remained at their stations, professional and alert. Navigator Park Jimin tracked the Imperial ship's movements, while Tactical Officer Yoon Subin quietly ran calculations on his combat systems. Target selected, announced the Imperial weapons officer. A barren moon, roughly the size of Earth's. Luna hung in space like a perfect demonstration target. Planetary disruption cannons charging, the World Render transformed as its weapons activated. The elegant hull opened like a blooming flower, revealing a massive cannon that pulsed with violet energy. Space itself seemed to bend around the weapon as it gathered power from the ship's core. Fire, Admiral Kethvar commanded. A beam of pure destruction lanced across space, striking the moon dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire celestial body began to glow from within, cracks of brilliant light spreading across its surface like a spider web of fire. The moon exploded in a cascade of molten rock and vaporized minerals, fragments, spinning away in all directions. Where a world had existed moments before, now only glowing debris marked the spot. On the Defiant, the human crew watched in respectful silence. Communications Officer Choi Mina whistled softly. "That's some serious firepower, Captain." "Indeed it is," Captain Lee replied, her voice steady. She activated the communication channel. "Admiral Kethvar, that was quite impressive. Your technology is remarkable." The Imperial commander preened at the praise. These humans were beginning to understand their place in the galaxy. "Would you like to see our mining techniques?" Captain Lee asked casually. "Since we're an ARC ship, we've had to develop efficient resource-gathering methods." Admiral Kethvar's aide whispered, "Sir, perhaps we should observe their primitive methods. It might be amusing." "Of course," the Admiral replied magnanimously. "We would be fascinated to see how your people extract resources." Communications Officer Choi Mina scanned the nearby asteroid field, her instruments analyzing composition and density. "Captain, there's a nice iron-nickel asteroid about 2 kilometers across, perfect for demonstration." Excellent choice, Captain. Lee nodded. Mr. Kim, prepare the harvester arrays. Engineering Chief Kim Dae-ho's voice echoed through the ship's intercom system. All crews to mining stations, launching resource extraction sequence in 30 seconds. What happened next would be talked about in Imperial war colleges for generations. The Defiant didn't transform gracefully like the Imperial ships. Instead, massive panels on its hull simply slid open with mechanical precision, revealing launch, tubes that looked more like weapon ports than mining equipment. Kinetic harvester rounds loaded and ready, announced Tactical Officer Yoon Subin. Fire, Captain Lee commanded. The human ship bucked slightly as it launched a salvo of tungsten slugs, each one the size of a small building and moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles weren't elegant beams of energy or sophisticated gravity fields. They were chunks of dense metal accelerated to incredible velocities by magnetic rails. The asteroid never stood a chance. The first slug hit with the force of a nuclear weapon, but instead of vaporizing the target, it punched through and shattered the rock into precisely calculated fragments. The second and third slugs struck milliseconds later, each impact sending shockwaves through the asteroid's structure. In less than 5 seconds, the 2-kilometer asteroid had been reduced to thousands of geometric chunks, each piece exactly the right size for processing. Deploying harvesters, Kim Dae-ho announced. Mechanical arms unfolded from the Defiant, like the legs of a massive spider. But these weren't delicate tools. They were industrial machines designed to tear apart space debris with ruthless efficiency. Magnetic fields herded the asteroid fragments, while cutting beams sliced them into manageable pieces. On the Imperial flagship, absolute silence filled the bridge. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display, his compound eyes wide with shock. "Analysis," he whispered. His weapons officer's voice trembled as he spoke. "Sir, those projectiles, they weren't mining tools, they were kinetic weapons, pure kinetic energy weapons." "Impossible," the Admiral breathed. "Sir, our shields are designed to deflect energy beams and particle weapons. But solid projectiles, moving at those velocities," the officer paused, running calculations. "Our shields would be useless. They would punch through our hulls like paper." On the human ship, Engineering Chief Kim Dae-ho allowed himself a small smile as he watched the Imperial fleet's formation suddenly spread out, putting more distance between themselves and the Defiant. "Captain," he said quietly, "I think they understand now." Captain Lee Hana nodded, watching as the alien ships repositioned themselves. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The Empire had shown their ability to destroy planets with elegant energy weapons. Humanity had responded by showing they could turn any chunk of space rock into a precision weapon that could cripple starships. The message was clear. Humans didn't fight with exotic energy fields or sophisticated technology. They fought with physics, mathematics, and the brutal efficiency that had carried them across the galaxy in search of a new home. Admiral Kethvar realized with growing horror that he wasn't looking at primitive refugees. He was facing a species that had weaponized the very concept of mining. Within hours of the asteroid demonstration, encrypted messages began racing across the galaxy's quantum communication networks. The footage of the human ship turning space rock into precision weapons spread like wildfire through underground channels, passed from one rebel cell to another across 47 Imperial worlds. On the mining colony of Zerion Prime, an insectoid worker named Clicktar watched the recording on a hidden datapad, his compound eyes reflecting the glow of kinetic slugs tearing through solid rock. For 30 years, he had labored in the Empire's uranium mines, his people treated as nothing more than expendable tools. "They did it with such ease," he whispered to his fellow workers gathered in the deep tunnels. "One ship, and they made the Empire's greatest admiral step back in fear." Similar scenes played out across the Xi galaxy. In the crystal farms of Vega 7, enslaved energy beings whispered the word humanity like a prayer. On the factory worlds of the Spiral Arm, mechanical laborers passed the footage through their shared networks, dreaming of rebellion. The name humanity became something more than just identification. It became hope. Communications Officer Choi Mina worked frantically at her station aboard the Defiant, her fingers dancing across holographic displays as she monitored thousands of Imperial communication channels simultaneously. The ship's quantum computers, designed to track asteroid movements during their long journey, now intercepted and decoded military transmissions with terrifying efficiency. "Captain," she called out, her voice tight with concern, "you need to hear this." Captain Lee Hana moved to the communications station as Choi Mina activated the speakers. An alien voice, cold and mechanical, filled the bridge through the universal translator. "Operation Cleansing Star is approved. All units converge on Grid 77 Alpha. The human contamination must be eliminated before it spreads further." The bridge fell silent. Navigator Park Jimin looked up from his station, his face pale. "Captain, Grid 77 Alpha is our current location. They're planning to hit us with everything they have." Engineer Kim Deho's voice crackled through the intercom from the engine bay. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the sector. Multiple fleets are moving toward our position." Before Captain Lee could respond, Tactical Officer Yoon Subin's console erupted with incoming signals. "Captain, I'm receiving transmission requests from 17 different star systems. They're all broadcasting on emergency frequencies." "Put them through," Hana ordered. The main view screen divided into multiple windows, each showing representatives from different worlds. A crystalline being from Altair spoke first, its voice ringing like chimes. "Humans of the Defiant, the Altair Collective has declared independence from the Zilithian Empire. We request your assistance in defending our freedom." Another window showed a gas-based life form swirling in a containment suit. "The Nebula colonies stand with humanity. Our people have suffered under Imperial rule for centuries. Your courage has inspired us to fight." One by one, 17 different species declared their independence from the Empire, all looking to the human ship for leadership in their rebellion. Captain Lee felt the weight of 50,000 human lives on her shoulders, plus millions more alien beings who now saw humanity as their salvation. Navigator Park Jimin pulled up star charts showing possible escape routes. "Captain, I've calculated our best options for withdrawal. The quantum drive is ready. We could be in deep space before their fleets arrive." Kim Dae-ho shook his head grimly as he studied power readings from across the sector. "One ship against an entire empire, Captain. The mathematics are simple. We can't win a stand-up fight against thousands of Imperial vessels." Captain Lee. Hana looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These people had followed her across the galaxy, trusting her to find them a new home among the stars. Now they faced a choice that would define not just humanity's future, but the fate of countless oppressed species. "When have impossible odds ever stopped humans?" she asked quietly. "We crossed interstellar space in a ship that shouldn't have worked. We survived 200 years in the void because we refused to give up. We turned mining equipment into weapons that made an empire step back in fear." She turned to the communications station. "Choi Mina, open a channel to all rebel worlds." Meanwhile, in the crystal spires of the imperial capital, Emperor Zalthek watched his 1,000-year empire crumble in real time. Holographic displays showed the spreading rebellion as world after world declared independence. Imperial Navy units were defecting or simply refusing orders. Trade routes were being cut by rebel fleets. His chief advisor scuttled forward on mechanical legs, data streams flowing from his cybernetic implants. "Your Magnificence, the situation is deteriorating rapidly. 17 systems have declared independence, but intelligence suggests 20 more are preparing to rebel. Our local governors are requesting immediate military support. All because of one ship," the Emperor hissed, his scaled fists clenching. "One primitive vessel carrying refugees has somehow inspired half the galaxy to revolt. Sir, Admiral Kethvar reports that the human vessel's weapons capabilities far exceed our initial estimates. Their kinetic weapons could potentially cripple our entire fleet." Emperor Zalthek stood, his massive form casting shadows across the throne room. For a millennium, the Zilithian Empire had maintained peace through overwhelming force. Now, one unknown species had shattered that peace simply by existing. "Prepare the Grand Fleet," he commanded, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. Every dreadnought, every battle station, every weapon of war we possess. I want that human ship, reduced to atoms and every rebel world turned to glass. End this chaos before it consumes everything we have built. As the Emperor's orders raced across the galaxy, the Defiant held position in space, a single point of light surrounded by the fury of a collapsing empire. Admiral Kethvar paced his bridge like a caged predator, watching the tactical displays. Show more Imperial ships defecting every hour. His pride, his honor, his entire career was crumbling as rebel worlds declared independence one after another. The human ship sat there in space, like a silent challenge to everything the Empire represented. I will not wait for the Emperor's slow bureaucracy, he snarled to his bridge crew. One warning shot, show these primitives what happens when they threaten Imperial order. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, our orders were to maintain defensive positions until the Grand Fleet arrives. Those orders are obsolete, Kethvar snapped. Fire a single plasma torpedo. Minimal yield, just enough to crack their hull and show them who rules this galaxy. The Imperial flagship, Eternal Dominion, rotated slowly, bringing its forward weapons to bear on the human vessel. A single torpedo launched, its plasma warhead glowing like a miniature star as it streaked toward the Defiant. On the human ship, automated systems that had protected them during their 200-year journey through space dust and micrometeorites detected the incoming threat. Point defense lasers, designed to vaporize tiny pieces of debris, swiveled and fired without any human input. The plasma torpedo vanished in a brief flash of light. Tactical Officer Yoon Subin looked up from his console in surprise. Captain, the Imperial ship just fired on us. Point defense took care of it automatically. Captain Lihana's face hardened. Return fire. Minimal force. Make it clear we can defend ourselves. The Defiant's mining railguns rotated with mechanical precision. A single tungsten slug, no bigger than a telephone pole, launched at a fraction of the velocity they had used on the asteroid. It was meant to be a warning shot, a demonstration that humans could hit back if threatened. The projectile struck the Imperial flagship's forward shield array. The energy barriers, designed to deflect plasma and energy weapons, might as well have been tissue paper. The tungsten slug punched through the shields, through the crystalline hull and out the other side of the ship. The Eternal Dominion shuddered, atmosphere venting from the breach, but Admiral Kethvar's ship was built to survive such damage. The hull sealed automatically, and emergency systems kicked in, but the slug kept going. Behind the flagship, 3 Imperial cruisers hung in formation, their crews watching the confrontation in fascination. The tungsten projectile, barely slowed, by its passage through the flagship, struck all 3 vessels in a perfect line. The first cruiser's reactor containment failed instantly. The ship became a brief star as fusion plasma consumed everything within a 2-kilometer radius. The second cruiser simply broke apart, its hull cracking like an eggshell. The third managed to activate its emergency systems, but the damage was too severe. The crew abandoned ship as it spun helplessly through space. In less than 10 seconds, 1 human warning shot had crippled 4 Imperial warships. The effect on the Imperial fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for hours suddenly scattered in all directions. Some vessels powered down their weapons and broadcast surrender signals. Others simply jumped to hyperspace without waiting for orders. Communications. Officer Choi Mina watched her displays in amazement as Imperial military frequencies erupted with panicked chatter. Captain, the entire fleet is falling apart. Ships are surrendering, defecting or fleeing. Admiral Kethvar is screaming orders, but nobody's listening. Navigator Park Jimin's console showed a galaxy-wide view of the rebellion spreading like wildfire. 23 worlds have declared independence in the last hour. The rebellion is cascading across every sector. On the bridge of the crippled Eternal Dominion, Admiral Kethvar stared at the tactical display showing his scattered fleet. Half his ships were gone. The other half were refusing to fight. His perfect military formation had become a joke in minutes. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from our own vessels. The crew of the Starrender just declared they're joining the rebellion. Engineer Kim Daeho's voice echoed through the Defiant from the engine bay. Captain, Quantum communicator is online. We're getting response signals from Earth. They want a full report. Captain Lee Hana looked around her bridge at the organized chaos of her crew, managing a galactic revolution they never intended to start. Choi Mina coordinated with dozens of rebel factions. Park Jimin plotted safe routes for refugee fleets, and Yoon Subin tracked the collapse of Imperial military forces across 17 sectors. "Open the channel," she ordered. The quantum communicator established a connection across the impossible distance to Earth. Captain Lee's voice would take minutes to reach home, but the message would carry the weight of humanity's future. "This is Captain Lee Hana of the UES Defiant to Earth Command," she broadcast into the void. "We have successfully reached the edge of the galaxy. We have found habitable worlds, potential allies, and—" She paused, watching another Imperial fleet surrender on her tactical display. "The situation is complicated." She looked at her crew, these ordinary humans who had somehow become the center of a galactic revolution. "We came here seeking refuge and accidentally sparked the collapse of a 1,000-year empire. 47 worlds are looking to humanity for leadership in building something better." On her view screen, she could see the lights of Imperial ships going dark as their crews abandoned the losing war. In the distance, rebel fleets were already forming protective formations around refugee ships fleeing oppression. "Send everything," she concluded, her voice carrying the weight of destiny. "Every ship, every volunteer, every person willing to help build a better galaxy. Humanity has work to do among the stars." As the transmission ended, the Defiant sat alone in space, no longer just an Ark ship carrying refugees. It had become the symbol of hope for countless species and the herald of humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. The Empire was finished. The galaxy would never be the same. And somehow, impossibly, it had all started with one human ship that just wanted to find a new home. The end.